Here we have a clip of Jordan Peterson talking about what to do if your spouse cheats on you.
This week I discovered my wife was having an affair. I still love her despite the betrayal. How do I navigate this? That's an easy one then.
Like, why are you breathing so heavy, dude? Are you, like, trying to keep yourself from crying? From, like, what, do you have, like, personal experience with this? I mean, most people probably do, but this seems to hit him pretty hard. Dude, come on. He's gonna cry. This is hilarious. Come on. He cries about, like, everything. And, like, what, he's supposed to be, like, the manliest of men?
So if you came to me and as a client, say, of my clinical practice, I would help you take that question apart. This week I discovered that my wife was having an affair. So, did you discover that this week? Or were there clues and hints for a very long period of time?
Like, why does that matter exactly when he found out? I mean, or they found out. I mean, just because there was hints and stuff doesn't technically mean your wife, the spouse is cheating. You could be misinterpreting various signs and stuff, but if you like walk in on your spouse cheating, or they admit that they were cheating, you know what to do when that happens.
And I'm not suggesting that that's the case, by the way, to this particular individual. I don't know anything about the person who asked this question, and so I would also ask whoever that is not to presume that I'm speaking directly to their concerns, because I don't know that person well enough to do that. I have to provide something approximating a generic answer. In order for that to be rectified, you need to know what exactly happened here. What's the significance of this event? And that's one vicious question. Now,
The significance of the event is that the person who cheated betrayed the trust of the person they cheated on.
the person asking the question also leaps to an immediate conclusion. So there's a big problem here. My wife had an affair, question mark. What's going on? But then they provide an answer. I still love her, and what's the next part of it exactly?
He wants to know how to navigate it.
Right, so the answer is I still love her and I need to know how to navigate forward. It's like, well, I'm not so convinced of that, by the way.
Convinced of what? That he loves her, or wants advice on how to navigate forward? Which I'm assuming the person is either kind of confused on what to do. Yeah, he loves the person, but he's unsure if they should leave the person or try to work on the relationship.
Um, are you not angry? Are you not upset, frustrated, disappointed, anxious, hurt, betrayed, traumatized? Or is there a part of you who now knows the relationship is over, and because it wasn't a very good relationship, you're thrilled because now you have the right to engage in the same sort of devious pathway to hypothetical freedom that your wife took?
No, he's not asking, hey, my wife cheated on me, can I cheat on her as well? I mean, you can assume he's asking that, but that doesn't seem to be the sort of uh, question he's asking, since he's saying, I still love her. It more so assumes like he's asking, what things can I do to help repair the relationship?
Because that can certainly be the case. Like when a bomb like that goes off in the midst of your life, everything is up for grabs. And so to immediately say, I still love her, it's like, yeah, maybe and maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not. That's what he said. So now he's just interjecting his own feelings into this, instead of, using his clinical psychologist mind to, give an answer.
And if that's all you feel, well, then that in itself is definitely a problem, and also might be key to why it happened to begin with, because you appear to be the sort of person who can be stomped on pretty damn hard and not object. And like I said,
Okay, just because he says he still loves her doesn't mean like he just lets people walk all over him.
to the person who asked this question, I am not talking about you. I don't know anything about you, and I'm not.
Okay, so he's not talking about the person, he's talking about himself and his own personal experience and what he did when he found out his wife was cheating on him.
Not presuming. I'm just laying out the potential landscape. What other problems do you have? How long have you been married? Is the whole damn thing a lie? Is every relationship you've ever had a lie? Are you a complete doormat? Are you blind beyond capacity? Have you married someone who's psychopathic or narcissistic? Do you have a pattern of associating with people like that?
Okay, wow. He gets asked a question. Hey, do you have any advice on what I can do to help navigate the next phase of my life due to my wife cheating on me and I'm unsure what to do? And he goes into on some weird rant. He always does this, go on some weird long rant that has really nothing to do with the question whatsoever.
Those are all questions that are going to plague and should plague you in some real sense when something like that happens. So the first issue is, well, what the hell happened? And man, that can take 1,000 hours that should have been spent in discussion with your wife before this happened, trying to get to the bottom of it.
Okay, he didn't know his wife was cheating on him before this happened, so you can't get to the bottom of why your spouse is going to cheat on you or is cheating on you until you know they're cheating on you.
People are often traumatized by that kind of revelation, and the reason they're traumatized is because, well, imagine you have a committed relationship with someone, so you might ask, what is the basis of the commitment? And there's a hierarchy of commitment in that some commitments are more fundamentally important than others, and those are the commitments upon which all other commitments rely. And so when you set up a household with someone and you move towards a permanent intimate relationship, and hypothetically in the direction of, let's say, having dependent children, then you're doing all that based on the presupposition that the person is faithful to you, because that's one of the defining attributes of the relationship itself.
Well, that's usually a defining aspect of most, romantic relationships, that a person is going to be faithful to you under the, boundaries and stuff that has been set up.
And so when that axiomatic presupposition is shattered, then everything dependent on that is now questionable, and that not only includes the present, what the hell is going on now, the future, what are we going to do, who am I with anyways, but also the past itself, because you were living, let's say, in something approximating a fool's paradise, and nothing that you thought to be the case was in fact the case.
Well, no, you can't say you're living a fool's paradise if somebody ends up cheating on you. I mean, you guys, people could be together for like 10 years and the person ends up cheating for whatever reason. That doesn't mean that, the first 10 years of their relationship was a lie. Jordan Peterson is just using too much of his own experience and personal emotions to answer this question, which is why he's going on such a long rant.
And so that's a dreadful problem. And how you cobble something like that back together is a very, very difficult problem. I would say the first thing you do is open yourself up to the admission of the magnitude of the problem. What's the problem? Who am I, anyways, that this happened to me? Who are other human beings that they could do this to each other? Right? So those are fundamental questions about the nature of social relationships themselves, or even about individual identity. Very, very unsettling questions. someone I loved has the capacity for that magnitude of betrayal. That's a dreadful realization, not least in part because it also implies to some degree that you also have the same capacity. Dante,
I mean, yeah, in some sense, everybody has the same capacity to do what everybody else can or could, but it doesn't mean that they're going to or feels right doing it.
Dante wrote a book, the the uh, the divine. Oh, now I can't remember the name of the book. The Inferno, and the Inferno. It's from the Inferno that we derive many of our ideas about hell, our poetic, imaginative representation of the.
Yeah, it's funny how Dante's Inferno and like every other artist's depiction of hell is like what Christians use as like their idea of hell when nobody's ever been there. There's no evidence that hell exists. I mean, Jordan Peterson believes in all this, yet there's no evidence. You seem that seems to go against like the rational logic science part that he loves to always claim that he is this logical person, when in reality he's one of the most illogical people because you believe in a religion.
Domain of the underworld, domain of darkness and catastrophe. And at the bottom of hell, Dante put Satan himself, but one rung above that, he put those who betray. And betrayal is the inversion of trust, right? You can't betray me unless I've trusted you. And trust is the precondition for all social relations. And so to betray someone who deeply trusts you is to demolish the foundation of relationship itself. And so that's why Dante placed it way deep down in the substructure of hell.
Yeah, but betraying somebody isn't something that worthy to where they need to be tortured for all eternity. That's a pretty wild belief to have, that people deserve to be tortured for all eternity for finite actions and behaviors.
And so when betrayal occurs, then you're faced with all those problems. In a therapeutic environment, I would walk the person through their marriage. It's like, let's lay out the story and see if we can figure out where things went wrong. And I wouldn't presume to know as a therapist at all, because each person's catastrophe is very.
Yeah, you don't need to presume as a therapist. You can just ask them questions and piece together the information. But Jordan Peterson loves to presume from the get-go, even though he pretends he doesn't.
Particularized and singular, and all I would be able to do in that situation is to listen to the account of the past, let's say, and to ask the person to clarify when I didn't understand, and to see if I could evoke from them a coherent and plausible causal account of the pathway to the catastrophe that was differentiated and detailed enough so that once they understood it, they would be less likely to repeat it. And that's how you recover from something like this. You recover from something like this by not being the sort of person to whom that will ever happen again.
Or you just figure out why the person cheated and see if, you guys can do something to, make sure that the spouse's needs are met. That could be one reason why they cheated, feeling lonely in the relationship. Needs weren't being met, so they sought an outside person to meet their needs because their spouse wasn't meeting their needs for whatever reason.
And that might be, it could be, as I alluded to earlier, that now and then people get unlucky and they partner with someone who is fundamentally and malevolently unreliable. And that's brutal if that occurs. And you might think, well, there's no people that are fundamentally and malevolently unreliable. And I would say, well, you're either naive and you better watch out because one of these adventures is coming your way, or you've been unbelievably fortunate and have just never encountered someone like that. And so I would find out from the person just exactly what it is they think they've encountered and to try to characterize that. They've certainly encountered this spirit of betrayal, no doubt about that.
Spirit of betrayal. Now he's going back to being all religious. Yeah, because betrayal is a personality, a god, a demon, a spirit that possesses people.
They encountered their own capacity for naive, willful blindness? Probably. All of that has to be rectified before this shattered reality can be put back together. And it has to be rectified. And that's an extraordinarily complicated problem. The answer to the problem is, how do I now move forward?
I honestly can't imagine paying Jordan Peterson money to listen to him ramble and rant about things.
Knowing what I know about my own capacity for blindness and the ability of others, even when trusted, to engage in deep betrayal. And that's are there general principles for that? There are. One thing you'll have to do to recover is to regain your willingness to trust. But it can't be naive, because look where that got you. It has to be.
Being naive isn't always like why people get cheated on, but he makes it seem like it's the person who got cheated on's fault for being cheated on, and he doesn't really like give advice to the person on what to do to help move on. All he's doing is going on to some weird rant.
Wise and courageous, and so to recover from this, you're going to have to be able to trust again. But trust will have to be predicated on something like courage rather than naivety. And the courage is something like the courage all wise people have when they undertake a relationship, which is something like, I know perfectly well that you're chock full of snakes, just like me. But the best pathway forward, nonetheless, is for us to extend a hand in trust to each other and see.
I know you're chocked full of snakes, just like me. So he's saying that how he views people is bad because he himself is a piece of shit.
If we can build a valid and solid and sustainable and iterable relationship despite our mutual inadequacies and our proclivity for malevolence. And there isn't a better pathway forward than that. And pathway is predicated on the ability to adopt a posture of attentive trust.